Welcome back to another episode of War in Cali. In this episode, I'm going to talk about the Rollin 90 neighborhood Crips. On the Rollin 90 Crips, also known as the 9-0s, history is a lot different than many other Crip gangs. The Rollin 90 Crips started off as two separate gangs, one being the 9-0 Hoovers, which was at a time a part of the Hoover Crips, which we know now as the Hoover Criminals, which most Hoover hoods drop in the Crip identity. The 9-0 Hoovers and the Hoover Alliance ended with some issues, and them being the clique of the Hoovers ended. They later became the 9-0 West Coast Crips. 9-0 Gangsters, no relation to the gangster card where the other set pushing 9-0, and the formation of them started in the 70s. These two gangs would later drop both of their old identities and come together to make the Rollin 90 neighborhood Crips, and become a part of the neighborhood card and the Rollin Old Alliance, which features several gangs. Rollin 90 Crips are allies of gangs like the Rollin 60 Crips, the 100s, the 40s, and the Rollin 50s. Basically, any other gang that's connected to the neighborhood card are allies to the neighborhoods. 9-0s are rivals with several blood gangs. That includes hoods like the Inglewood families, the Centinela Park families, Avenue Parus, the Crenshaw Mafias, the Brims, and BPS, just to name a few. Some other rivals of the 9-0s include the Gardena Shotgun Crips. The 9-0s also has an intense rivalry with the A-Tray Gangsta Crips, who are one of their most hated rivals. And of course, all of the Hoover Criminals, who their beef with has been intense for decades. The 9-0s sport North Carolina Tar Heel gear for the NC for 90 Crip, and they also sport baby blue, and they known to control their hood with an iron fist. Just like many other hoods in LA, most of these hoods have a known park, and for the 9-0s, that would be Jesse Owens Park. But with that being said, let's get into some cases. On August 12th of 2003, three A-Tray Gangster Crips, Rico, Doug, and James were getting gassed at a gas station on 76 and Western. A black Ford would then pull up and yell out, "This Rollin' Crip," and yelled distance to the A-Tray Gangsters. The A-Tray Gangsters then drove off into an intersection. That same black Ford with the Rollin 90s pulled back up, and the black Ford windows rolls down. People in the black Ford start throwing up 9-0 out the window, and then shots start flying in the A-Tray Gangsters' direction. 3 people were shot, and Doug died from this incident. On August 15th, police received a tip from an informant that the black Ford was a 9-0 member named Kevin's car. Police impounded Kevin's car and took him in for questioning. Kevin cracked in an interrogation room and made up multiple stories he couldn't stick to. Kevin ended up being sentenced to 75 years to life. On August 11th, 2005, Eric was walking on 94th and Dinker when he was approached by a man named Isaiah. Isaiah asked Eric where was he from. Eric replied, 9-0 Crip. Isaiah said he was from Rollin 60s, and both men shook hands, with both of their hoods being claimed being allies. Isaiah then walked away, but he came back minutes later in a car and asked to use Eric's phone, but this was a way to throw Eric off. Before Eric knew it, Isaiah yelled out, "This A-Tray Gangster," and pulled out a strap and started firing multiple shots. Isaiah then got in his car and then drove off. Eric was shot 5 times but survived this incident. At the hospital, Eric told police that A-Tray Gangster shot him, and even gave a description of Isaiah. 3 days later, Isaiah was arrested. Police searched Isaiah's home and found all the evidence they needed. Trial, Eric was telling up a storm, picking Isaiah out on the stand and giving a full account of what happened. Isaiah later received 40 years to life for the crime. On November 26, 2005, the body of a man named D was found on 92nd and Western. D was from 11 Deuce Hoover and had it tatted on him. A 9-0 Crip named Henry would later come to the police with info about the shooting. He would say numerous 9-0 Crips were in the alley when they spotted D. Tiny Crypto told all the 9-0s to leave the alley, and they did. Then they heard 2 to 3 shots. Henry even picked Crypto out of a lineup. Pierre from 9-0 would even come forth for information to tell the police. He said Crypto shot D in the back of the head. Crypto would be arrested and say the incident was self-defense after him and D got into an altercation. But statements from his own gang, this was later proven false. Crypto received 25 years to life for this crime. On April 1st, 2007, Andrew from Inglewood Family Bloods was driving on 94th Street with his friend Kenneth at Rollin 90s Turf. Andrew would see Mike from 9-0 on the street. Mike looked right at Andrew and reached for his waist. Andrew stepped on the gas and ducked. Mike started shooting. Kenneth was shot in the head, taking his life. A 9-0 Crip named Tony was a witness to the shooting. He later told police everything he knew. Tony would tell the police that he saw Mike pull out a strap and started shooting at a car. Another 9-0 Crip named Creighton would come forth, and he would say that Mike admitted to him that he did the shooting. Mike would deny all these statements and claims, but he still received 59 years to life for the shooting. December 26, 2007. Jeremy and Kevin were in Kevin's car in the parking lot of Jesse Owens Park in 90s turf. The car was then shot up, leaving Jeremy dead, and Kevin shot 3 times. Kevin refused to talk to the police. There was a witness in Jesse Owens' parking lot who witnessed the whole thing and gave the police an account of what happened. He even gave a description of the shooter. On June 23, 2008, Kenneth from A-Tray Gangsta was pulled over with the same strap used in the shooting. This connected him to other shootings, which was said he shot at multiple 9-0s and even shootings against the 60s. This all led to Kenneth getting a life sentence. On December 29, 2010, T was at St. Andrews Park riding his bike. He was later found laid out being shot multiple times. He lost his life. Several months later, a woman named Cree told the police her boyfriend was involved in that shooting. Cree told the police her boyfriend Deron was from 9-0. Cree also mentioned how his homies Tim and his homie Marcus were involved in the shooting. Cree said Deron was pillow talking and told her everything that happened that night. Deron, Tim, and Marcus left Cree's house and drove to St. Andrews Park and caught T on a bike and began shooting. Shooting was revenge for a 9-0 who was shot days prior. Marcus was later picked up. In his interview, his story changed multiple times, but he admitted to driving to the park and seeing Tim and Deron get out the car. Marcus would admit to hearing multiple shots and seeing Deron and Tim run back to the car, but he said he thought they were running because enemies were shooting at them because they were in the enemy's park. All 3 men were later charged with life, all received lengthy sentences. July 21st, 2011. Kevin from 9-0 was at a gas station at the intersection of Century Boulevard and Van Ness Avenue. Twan from Hard Time Hustler Crips seen him at the gas station and approached him and asked him for a ride, which Kevin agreed. Kevin began driving, but things got tricky in the car. Twan pulled out a strap and pointed at Kevin. Kevin thought he was being robbed and gave him his money from his pocket, but he sensed it was deeper than that, so he attempted to jump from the car, but before he could, Twan shot him twice in the chest as he jumped out. Kevin got up and ran and collapsed a short distance later. He suffered serious injuries but survived. Twan would later get caught up on another shooting, and this led back to the shooting of Kevin. Twan received 91 years to life for his role in multiple shootings. On March 11, 2012, several members of the Hard Time Hustler Crips ran into Gerard from 9-0 in front of a store. Gerard knew one of the Hard Time Hustlers named Antonio, so this will only turn into a Hard Time Hustler running the fade with Gerard. After it was over, Gerard got in his car and he drove away. The next day, March 12th, Antonio was outside of an apartment building with a man named Kristen when the car drove by and fired multiple shots. Kristen was shot in the head, taking his life. 3 months later, Keywan from 9-0 snitched on Gerard. He told the police that Gerard told him he got beat up by the Hard Time Hustlers, so the next day he caught somebody slipping and shot him. Surveillance cameras at the store showed the fight and the car Gerard got in. It was the same car used in the shooting. Gerard later received 65 years to life. On February 10th, 2017, Tatiana, Keandra, and Zaki were chilling and talking in front of Tatiana's house. Tatiana would get into an altercation with a 9-0 Crip named Isaiah. This led to her dissing 9-0. He then made a call. A man named Arnett from 9-0 Crip later came in his car and pressed Tatiana about what she said. She again dissed 9-0. He then drove away. Around 5 minutes later, Arnett came back and Tatiana kept that same energy, and Arnett stuck his strap out the window and began shooting. He was later arrested off Tatiana giving her account, and she even later testified in court. Arnett received 105 years to life. Now this next case, I'm going to detail the story of Cameron Terrell, the B-Rat of South Central. Now Lil Cameron, he came from a wealthy background, wealthy successful parents, beautiful scenery, and a beautiful home, and a great education, far, far away from South Central and the trenches. He drove a Benz, and now no old 2000 Benz, the latest model at the time, and was given a ton of money from his parents. Ain't that a life we wish we all had? I guess Cameron was at a rebellion state in his life and wanted to see what the streets was like. This led to him being in South Central and making friends. Rollin 90s ended up putting Cameron on. He got the name Bright Eyes, and they also called him Milk. But on October 1st, 2017, Cameron and 2 other men was riding through A-Tray Gangsta's turf looking for ops. A man named Justin and 2 other people were walking on 78th and Western. Justin was walking. The 2 people that were with Cameron approached him. They would shoot him and take his life. The shooters then ran to the car with Cameron and they would drive away. It was a surveillance camera near the scene and caught the shooters getting into Cameron's Benz and driving away. Cameron was later arrested along with the other man, but Cameron was released on bail.
Attempted murder. He's now free on $5 million bail. The victim in this case, Justin Holmes, had just rounded this corner at 78th and Western with two of his friends when detectives say they were confronted by a pair of suspects, both of them juveniles, who asked the men where they were from and then opened fire. Justin Holmes was shot and killed on this sidewalk. The two suspects, according to detectives, got into a car driven by Cameron Terrell and took off. Terrell isn't from South L.A. He's from this affluent section of Palos Verdes where eyewitness...
Cameron played now guilty and would say he didn't know his two friends were going to shoot anybody. He said he was shocked they did, and he drove away in fear. Police would say this was not true. Police would bring up how he was a gang member, and even in the Rollin 90s videos. Like, look at bruh, he was a real loc back in the day, but now he trying to say he wasn't.
I didn't know anyone was going to get shot. He argued Terrell's instinct was to drive away when his friends ran back to the car.
I'll say rest in peace, Justin Holmes. He shouldn't have died that day, and, you know, I pray for his family every night. This been weighing on me every single day of my life. I don't have to explain myself to anyone. God knows what really happened that day, and God knows what was in my head that day.
The case made headlines when Terrell's wealthy family posted $5 million bail and he returned to classes at his high school. Terrell now says he plans to attend the University of Houston and go to law school.
You already know how this go by that ending. He walked free. Cameron didn't get charged for nothing, and the people that he was with, they were the solely people charged for the shooting. Cameron is still out and living his free life. This will conclude this episode. If you haven't already, make sure you check out my previous episodes. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.